When it comes to succulent care, watering is hands down the #1 issue that trips people up. And honestly, it's where most of the heartbreak happens. It might seem simple, but many succulent beginners and even experienced gardeners sometimes mess up. Have you ever seen someone dunking their pot of succulents in a tub of water? Do you wonder if this will work for you too? Or maybe you've seen someone post how the leaves of their succulents got sunburned after watering and made you wonder, how did it happen? My succulents got rained on and they were fine. Or someone claiming that they are just misting their succulents and they are still alive. Or maybe you have encountered someone who claims that their succulent died of overwatering even though they have not given it a single drop. So in today's video, we're diving into the sometimes confusing, often debated world of watering succulents. We'll clear up the myths, talk about common mistakes, and most importantly, help you figure out how to water your succulents the right way so they don't end up mushy, shriveled, or worse, gone. Let's help your succulents thrive, not just survive. And it all starts with one of the trickiest topics out there: watering. So, how much water do succulents really need? How often should you water them? And how do you know if it's time to give them a drink? We're going to cover all that and more. But first, let's take a quick look at what makes succulents so special. Succulents are amazing plants. They're built for survival. Their thick leaves, stems, and roots are not just pretty. They have storage cells. Inside, they hold water like tiny built-in water tanks. Because of that, succulents can go for a while without being watered. But wait, does that mean they don't like water? Not at all. In fact, succulents love water. They're just really good at saving it for later. The problem, if water is always around, they'll keep on drinking and drinking until their storage cells burst. That's when things go downhill. The leaves get mushy, the roots rot, and before you know it, your succulent is in trouble. So yes, they need water, but timing and amount, that's where the magic happens. So let's dive in and learn how to water them just right. There's a lot of advice about how to water succulents, but not all of it will apply to your setup. Some tips might help your plants thrive, while others could lead to root rot or underwatering if you're not careful. So instead of following a strict watering schedule or following other people's schedule, the best thing you can do is to learn to water based on your plant's needs and your environment. Several important factors are involved, and once you understand them, you'll be better equipped to give your succulents the care they actually need. So let's break down those key factors and how each one can guide your watering. Number 1. Consider the type of succulent you have. Not all succulents are the same when it comes to watering. Some need water more often, while others can go longer without it. That's because different types of succulents store, use, and conserve water in different ways. Succulents from the Senecio family, like the string of pearls and string of dolphins, store water in their leaves, but they don't hold onto it for very long. Because of that, they tend to dry out faster and need to be watered more often. In this case, you can use a moisture-rich soil as long as it allows the water to drain well. Watering every other day or 2 to 3 times a week is usually okay for this type of succulents. On the other hand, there are some succulents that can wait a bit longer. Succulents from the Crassulaceae family like Echeveria, Crassula, Eoniums, Sedums, and Kalanchoes are better at conserving water. That is because they use a special process called CAM photosynthesis or the Crassulacean acid metabolism, where they close their pores during the day when it is hot and open them at night when it is cooler. In that way, they avoid losing a lot of moisture. These plants don't need to be watered as often. In general, watering once a week or every 10 days work well. Again, just make sure the soil has dried out first. Then, there are succulents that can hold off watering even longer. Succulents in the Cactaceae family are some of the best at holding water. They also use CAM photosynthesis, but in addition, they've developed even more ways to reduce water loss, like thick skins, fewer pores, and spines for shade and protection. Cacti usually need the least frequent watering, sometimes only once every 2 to 3 weeks or even longer in cooler months. What if you don't know the type of succulents you have? If you're not sure what kind of succulent you have, don't worry. You can still figure out what it needs just by looking at their leaves. Here's what to watch for. Wrinkled, dull, or shriveled leaves mean your plant is thirsty and need water. Firm, shiny, or swollen leaves mean your plant has plenty of water stored and doesn't need any. Healthy and plump? You're doing great. Just continue watering only when the soil is dry. But if your succulent is very dry and looks dehydrated, a good soak can help it bounce back. Some people like to place the whole pot in a container of water for a few minutes so the roots can absorb the water well. This technique is okay if the plant needs water, but if your succulent is full and plump, avoid this method. Too much absorbed water can cause their storage cells to rupture. The bottom line, even though all succulents store water, their watering needs can be very different. Some dry out fast, some are slow to lose moisture, and some are built to go long periods without any water at all. So the best thing you can do is observe your plant, look at the leaves, feel the soil, and water only when needed. That way, you'll help your succulents stay healthy, happy, and thriving. Number 2, consider the size of your succulent. When it comes to watering succulents, size really matters. Smaller succulents have smaller leaves and stems, which means they can only store a limited amount of water. On the other hand, larger succulents, especially mature ones, planted in the ground or huge planters, have more space to store moisture and will need more water. This is why those big, well-established succulents in outdoor gardens can tolerate heavy rains or deep soak without a problem. Their extensive root systems and thick leaves can handle more water and dry out faster in open air conditions. If you are learning so far and haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please help grow my channel by subscribing. Now, if you just bought a tiny succulent with a few delicate leaves and planted in a big pot filled with soil, you'll need to be careful when you water. That extra soil holds much more moisture than your small plant needs, and that's where problems begin. Too much moisture around a small root system equals a higher risk of overwatering. So if you're planting a small succulent, match the pot size to the plant. Choose a pot that gives it just enough room to grow, not one that's too deep or too wide. This helps you prevent giving too much water than they can handle. Also, watch out for already overwatered plants at the store. Here's something beginners don't realize. Sometimes the succulent you just bought was already struggling before it came home with you. If you purchase a plant that's been sitting in wet soil at a nursery or store, it may already be overwatered even if it looks healthy at first. These succulents often show signs of trouble soon after you bring them home. Leaves start falling off, stems get saggy or squishy, roots begin to rot beneath the surface. So before buying a succulent, take a few seconds to give it a closer look. Look for healthy signs: firm plump leaves, dry or slightly dry soil, no black spots or mushy areas, and leaves are attached tightly to the stem. And beware of mushy or transparent leaves, the soil that feels damp or soggy, and leaves falling off when slightly touched. If you see any of those red flags, it's best to skip that plant or be ready to repot it immediately into dry, well-draining soil and cut out any rotting parts. Number 3, the type of soil you use matters more than you think. If there's one thing succulents really don't like, it's sitting in wet, soggy soil. The roots are used to dry conditions, and when they stay too moist for too long, they can start to rot. And once rot sets in, it's hard to save the plant. In their natural habitats, succulents grow in dry, rocky areas where water drains away quickly. There's no heavy soil holding onto moisture. That's why when you grow them at home, it's super important to recreate that fast-draining environment. Using regular potting soil might seem okay, but it's actually one of the most common mistakes succulent growers make. Regular soil holds water too long, which is bad news for succulents. Instead, go for a cactus or succulent mix. It's specially made to drain quickly. You can even make your own by mixing regular potting soil with coarse sand, pumice, or perlite. The goal is to give your succulents the kind of soil that lets water pass through easily so the roots stay healthy and happy. One trick to knowing if your soil is right is to watch the water seep through fast when you water. Also, see how long it stays wet after watering. If the soil is still damp 2 to 3 days later, it might be too moisture retentive. If it dries out within a day or two, you're in the safe zone. The wetter your soil stays, the less often you should water. And if the soil is drying too slow, you can either add more perlite, use a smaller pot, or move the plant to a better ventilated spot. Number 4, use pots with drainage holes. If you're growing succulents, one of the most important choices you'll make is the type of pot you use, especially whether it has drainage hole at the bottom. And why is that little hole such a big deal? Because succulents hate sitting in water. Their roots are adapted to dry, well-draining soil, and when water gets trapped at the bottom of a pot with no way out, it creates the perfect storm for root rot, which is the #1 killer of succulents. If you have a cute pot with no hole and really want to use it, try placing your succulent in a plastic nursery pot with drainage. Then set that inside the decorative pot. That way you can still remove it to water and let it drain before putting it back. Choose breathable pot materials. The material your pot is made from also affects how fast your soil dries. Terracotta or clay pots are great because they're breathable. They absorb moisture from the soil and help it evaporate more quickly, which is perfect for succulents. Plastic or glazed ceramic pots hold moisture longer. They're okay to use, but you'll need to be more careful about watering, especially in humid environments or if your plant is indoors. So when it comes to choosing pots for your succulents, remember, form is fun, but function is key. That little hole at the bottom could be the difference between a thriving plant and a mushy mess. Number 5, Consider your climate. It affects everything. When it comes to watering succulents, where you live matters more than you think. Your climate plays a huge role in how fast your soil dries out and how often your plants need a drink. If you live in a place that's hot, dry, and sunny, that means your succulents might need to be watered more often, especially in the summer. In some areas, you might find yourself watering every week or even every other day during heat waves, especially if your succulents are outdoors, in small pots, or getting full sun all day. On the other hand, if you are in a cooler or more humid area, your soil will stay moist for longer. In these cases, watering too often can lead to soggy soil and root rot. If that sounds like your climate, you'll want to be more cautious. It might mean watering only once every 10 to 14 days or even less during cooler months. Let's talk about something a bit controversial. Can watering succulent overhead burn the leaves? The short answer is yes and no. Yes, water can cause burn spots on leaves if you water during the hottest part of the day, especially during the heat wave or when temperatures reaches above 100 degrees Fahrenheit or in triple digits. Because the water droplets on the leaves can act like tiny magnifying glasses. Under intense sun, they can focus the sunlight and cause leaf burn or discoloration. And no, it won't always burn your plants, especially if your succulents are in partial shade or the sun isn't as intense. So when is the best time to water during this time? To avoid any heat damage and help your plants absorb water more effectively, water during the cooler parts of the day. Early morning or late afternoon is ideal. This gives the roots time to soak up the moisture and the leaves have a chance to dry off before the sun gets intense. Don't forget to adjust your watering based on seasonal changes in your climate. In summer, water more often, especially if it's hot and dry. In winter, most succulents go into a dormant phase, so water less frequently, even just once a month for some types. Let's talk about misting. Why it's not a go for succulents. Misting might seem like a gentle, loving way to water your plants, but when it comes to succulents, it's actually one of the most common mistakes people make. Succulents aren't fans of humidity or light surface watering. They're desert adapted, drought-loving plants that prefer a good deep drink over a light spritz any day. When you mist a succulent plant, you're not giving it the kind of hydration it actually needs. These plants absorb water through their roots, not their leaves, so misting the top of the soil or the plant itself barely does anything for their overall health. In fact, it can do more harm than good. Too much moisture on the leaves can lead to rot, mold, and even pest problems, especially if you're keeping your plants indoors where there's less airflow. So what's the better option? Skip the mist and go for a deep soak. Water the soil thoroughly and let the excess drain out. Then let it dry out completely before watering again. It's simple, effective, and much more in tune with how succulents like to live. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and diving into the world of watering succulents. I truly appreciate each and every one of you who takes the time to watch, learn, and grow along with me. If this video helped you understand your plants a little better, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't done yet, hit that subscribe button so we can keep growing together. Bye for now.